It began without the touch of lips or perhaps a gentle caress or perhaps just a single word. It began with a glance. Just 3 fleeting seconds. That was all it required to break through. Something I believed had long since hardened into stone. At 45 I possessed all the things that society claimed would bring a woman joy: a grand residence, a spouse with a stable career, a daughter who continued to address me as mom with a gentle warmth. Yet what I lacked was a pulse I could sense. Most mornings I navigated through existence as if I were recounting the tale of another toasted perfection. Departure, the act of laundering garments, stillness, increased quietude. And Daniel, my husband, he ceased to acknowledge the silence long ago. Didn't step into the gym with the intention of transforming my physique. Became a member due to its inclusion of windows. It carried the scent of perspiration, melodies, and the presence of those who were still striving. It was in that very place that I first laid eyes on him, truly observed. Man occupies the rowing machine just 2 rows ahead of me, not a mere model. It was not the type of man I would have singled out among a sea of faces. Yet there was an undeniable presence within his form, something vibrant. And when he gazed at me that first time, he didn't shy away. He maintained his hold on my gaze. 3 seconds stretched into eternity, and a part of me stirred to life. That evening, slumber eluded me, not due to any sense of guilt, for I was enveloped in a surge of electricity. I reassured myself that it held no significance, merely an unfamiliar face, a mere glimpse. Each time I shut my eyes, I envisioned the way he gazed at me, as if I were unbound by vows. I certainly wasn't in the throes of middle age. Certainly wasn't unseen. Yet I remained present. Once more. It unfolded on the following Tuesday. He was present, identical apparatus. Upon completing his task, he strolled by, offering a nod and a smile. It was not a smile laced with flirtation, not one driven by hunger. Was the smile of one who had already seen me and felt no need to seek permission to gaze once more. In the mirror of the changing room I gazed upon my own face as if it belonged to someone else. At what moment did the sparkle in my eyes fade away? When did I begin to cloak myself in shadows? In the past, I adorned my lips with a bold shade of red lipstick. In the past, my laughter would echo through the restaurants. I was once a woman who commanded attention, particularly from my husband. At this moment I merged seamlessly with the backdrop of my existence, and that man he brought to mind the time I was vibrant. The rain fell steadily outside the gym for the 3rd time. An umbrella was absent from my possession. He certainly did. He lingered by the door, his voice steady, as he remarked, "You appeared strong today." A chuckle escaped my lips, and I quickly averted my gaze, embarrassed by the weight of that single sentence and what it signified for me. He escorted me to my vehicle. They didn't inquire about my name, did not provide his. He merely remarked, "Perhaps I'll see you on Thursday." During dinner that evening, Daniel inquired about the events of my day. I replied, "Uneventful." She then handed him the result, and that was the moment I began to weave my fabric of untruth, not solely for him but for my own sake. For an unseen force within me had already begun change. Once a woman starts to deceive herself, there is no going back. This was not the affair. This was not an act of betrayal. Not at this moment. Yet it marked the initial stride into a realm where I would no longer be tethered to just one man. I did not succumb to the ground beneath me. strolled, gaze unblinking, heart a mere shadow of its former self, and yearning to experience something once more. It is often said that the most perilous elements disguise themselves in the guise of the mundane. A steaming cup of coffee, a serene table, an unfamiliar face that evokes a sense of intimacy. This was not a date. We reassured ourselves with that notion. Yet we were both aware this was far from nothing. Thursday had arrived. Once more he found himself lingering outside the gym. I find myself pondering what I truly anticipated. Perhaps it amounts to nothing at all. Perhaps all things. With a smile he remarked, I know a spot that serves the strongest cappuccino in town. And I remarked, I don't typically. Yet I chose to follow him, regardless, for a fragment of my being had already whispered, yes, the instant he cast his gaze upon me as if I still held significance. Café lay just 2 blocks distant, stillness nestled between a florist and a tailor. He placed the order for both of us as if he had an innate understanding of my coffee preferences. I inquired about his name, James. I offered my own, Isabel, and when he uttered it just a single time, it resonated as though he were savoring something he had longed to experience. We conversed about trivialities, yet they held significance. Melodies, motion, unfinished tones that lingered on our shelves. He remarked, you strike me as someone who once immersed themselves in poetry. A chuckle escaped my lips, then came to a halt, for he was indeed correct. Once upon a time, I declared. For a fleeting instant I loathed the effortless way that word slipped from my lips. To what extent would I allow myself to diminish? He refrained from pressing the matter. He simply remarked, I believe you still do. In a distant place we remained, untouched not a single time. It is not a handbrush, not a stretch over the table, yet in some inexplicable way that only intensified the situation, there existed a tension between us, not loud, not overt, merely this pull, like 2 magnets feigning ignorance of their connection. As I extended my hand towards my cup, he did so. Simultaneously, we came to a halt, our hands a mere breath apart. He smiled gently and remarked in a soft voice, that's okay. I too found myself unprepared. During dinner that evening, Daniel inquired about the gym experience. I remarked, crowded. He inquired about my actions that followed. Acquired provisions. Smile graced my lips. He placed his trust in me. That falsehood whispered softly, more subdued than remorse. It nestled within me like the inaugural stone preceding a cascade. In the following week we crossed paths once more. Identical location, the same corner table. He inquired about my daughter. I inquired about his marital status. He took a moment to pause, separated, then glanced upward. I inclined my head in acknowledgement, joined in matrimony. 19 years. His eyes held no judgment, just a hush that whispered. I was aware all along. Before we departed, he turned to me and remarked, you possess the demeanor of a woman poised for an important question, yet no one ever inquires. I remained silent. What words could I possibly find? He had just unraveled the truth from me as one might draw out a delicate thread. In that moment I realized this was not merely about coffee. It was never the. It was a moment of awakening in a life that seemed foreign to me, and encountering a person who offered a mirror without inquiring if I wished to. Our lips never met. We remained in touch. We held our silence. Within each word, within each sip, within each pause, we were gradually crafting a narrative that seemed destined to culminate in fracture. For no one gathers for coffee 3 times a week unless they are already craving something deeper. There exists a fleeting instant just before you step over the threshold when the universe offers you a final opportunity to retreat. One final breath, a final moment of stillness, and at times you inhale deeply and then you step inside. Regardless, it was not something we had arranged. Perhaps we did after all. Informed James that I was unable to meet that week. Overwhelmed with tasks, overwhelmed by guilt. He merely stated, 1 hour wherever you decide, take time. Simply moments spent in your company. I selected a hotel situated a mere 20 minutes from my neighborhood. Nothing extravagant yet pristine. Unidentified. I sent the address via text. I refrained from explaining the reason. I was not obliged to. I was the first to arrive. The chamber numbered 412. 4th level. Silence reigns devoid of any lift melodies. Only the rhythm of my heartbeat pulsing against my ribs. He rapped lightly on the door. On the other hand, the door creaked open, revealing what lay beyond. He remained expressionless. I remained silent. He shut the door softly, sealing off the world beyond. In that stillness we lingered as if time itself had paused. He then inquired, "Are you certain?" I replied, "No, yet I stand before you." He removed my clothes with deliberate slowness, not as a man yearning for flesh, but as one seeking what lies beneath, and I allowed him to do so. That fleeting instant I was stripped of the identity of a mother. I was not a wife. I existed in a realm of solitude, unclaimed and undefined. I existed merely as a woman observed by the world round me. Took our time. Our bodies swayed as if they had shared a past existence, now joyfully coming together once more. It lacked any sense of wildness. It lacked a sense of urgency. It was nearly reverence. His hands held my hips as if they were a sacred invocation. His breath lingered on my neck, a whisper of secrets shared. Upon my arrival, tears streamed down my face, not for the sake of enjoyment. In the manner it shattered, it unveiled something vast within me. We lingered in that moment, time stretching around us, untouched, merely inhaling and exhaling. And James murmured, "I've never experienced guilt and gratitude simultaneously." I remained silent, for I was unaware of which fragment of my being had just come into existence and which had just met its end. As I made my way home, the world outside faded into a quiet stillness. Silence reigns, not a single tear, the mere recollection of his hands and the way my name was spoken as if it held significance. Took a shower. I polished my skin until it blushed crimson, yet the water could not cleanse away the choices I had made. For the reason that it was not merely dirt, a choice had been made and it resided beneath the surface. At evening, Daniel inquired whether I felt worry. I agreed. He pressed his lips softly against my cheek. He confessed his love for me and I echoed it. Yet it resonated as if another had claimed my voice. How does one utter the words, "I love you," to a man whom you have just betrayed with every fiber of your being? The hotel room lacked the essence of sin. Seemed as though silence was at last shattering, as if someone were perceiving me, reaching out to me without gazing past my essence. Perhaps that is the reason it proved to be more perilous than anything else, for felt entirely right. It resonated with a sense of hallelujah. Certain. Falsehoods wound deeply due to their inherent wrongness. Others suffer because they are directed towards those who are most deserving of our honesty. It was never my intention to deceive her, yet I did. And after that day, certain spark in her eyes was forever altered. On that particular Saturday, fluffy stacks of pancakes, sweet golden elixir from the heart of the maple tree. Ava, my daughter, softly humming to the melodies that fill the kitchen. Daniel, embarked on an early morning jog, continued to wear the same fragrance that James adored. As I poured the batter into the pan, Ava uttered a remark that sent a shiver through my ends. Mother, I spotted you at the cafe last week in the company of a man. Were filled with laughter. I stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. The clatter of the spatula against the pan's edge resonated with an intensity that seemed disproportionate. Who is it? I inquired, perhaps a bit too hastily. Excessively keen. She blinked, taken back. I'm uncertain. He was not Dad. Yet you appeared content. Her words lacked any hint of suspicion. Her words dripped with pride as she spoke of me, as if she had caught a fleeting glimpse of the woman I once was. And yet I deceive. That was merely an acquaintance from my literary gathering. A smile graced my lips. It was akin to the sensation of ingesting shards of glass. Following breakfast, she refrained from pressing the matter, refrained from inquiring once more. As the afternoon wore on, she chose not to embrace me in farewell, and I swear, I glimpsed a change in her gaze. Not rage, do not fear, only separation. Felt as though the image of myself that she held dear was starting to fracture. Daniel began to take notice as well. The dinners that slipped away, the additional showers, the way I recoiled at his touch, reminiscent of the past. On a particular evening, he inquired, Isabel, is there something you wish to share with me? And I replied, I'm simply weary. That's the sort of deception that married women excel at, the sort that conceals a whole other existence beneath a solitary yawn. He lingered in my thoughts, an ever-present figure. Accommodations, swift midday meals, times intimacy eluded us entirely. We simply reclined in silence, engaging in conversation, moving, inhaling a manifestation of our being that found no place in any other realm. Yet with each departure a weight settled deeper within me. The lie had ceased to be merely a story I spun, had transformed into a garment I donned. In the depths of night, a vision unfolded where Ava stumbled upon my phone. I've seen the messages, the images, the weight of remorse. In the dream, she remained silent, her eyes wry. She simply gazed at me and inquired, was I not sufficient to make you stay? As I stirred from slumber, I found my pillow drenched in tears, for I found myself at a loss, uncertain of how to respond to her, not even in slumber. That morning I found myself standing before the mirror, exposed, without any makeup, hair left in disarray. Peered as if I once understood the essence of love. In the depths of my reflection there was no trace of seduction. Empowerment eluded my gaze. Observed a woman willing to go to great lengths to experience a sense of connection. She would even deceive her child. The most painful aspect of infidelity lies not in the act itself. It is the moment you transform into a stranger to those you hold dear. On that particular morning, Ava prepared her own lunch. She didn't request me to braid her hair, failed to press a gentle kiss upon my cheek before the day began. Reassured myself that it was insignificant, that she was maturing, that she failed to observe, yet I was aware. I realized in that instant of deceit that a fragile beauty had shattered. It extended beyond mere trust. I was the one. Secret. Believes it is secure until it encounters another secret that looms larger. I believed I was the one in concealment. I believed I was the sole deceiver. Yet I found myself not in that place. Far from it. On a Sunday afternoon, Ava embarked on a school project. She expressed a desire to visit the nearby bookshop. I agreed. Sought a diversion to occupy my thoughts. Whispers of stillness, something distant from hotel rooms and deceit. His presence caught me off guard. James, beaming, chortling with delight, cradling a young lad. Beside him, woman in the early 40s, chestnut tendrils, a symbol of eternal love and commitment, harmonizing vibrations. His beloved spouse. First he failed to notice my presence. I remained motionless, concealed behind a shelf, observing attentively, absorbing the sounds around, struggling to find my breath. They were not engaged in combat. They were not remote. They appeared to be individuals who continued to clasp hands despite the disagreements. He pressed his lips gently against her forehead. He hoisted the boy onto his shoulders. And in that moment I came to understand I had played the role of the other woman in a narrative I believed I was directing. Was not the deception. 'Twas the simplicity. How effortlessly he transitioned into that existence. Free from weight, pristine, I felt as though I was merely a diversion, merely a flicker he toyed with before retreating to the blaze that genuinely embraced. He raised his gaze, beheld me. His smile wavered, only for a fleeting moment. He made no gesture of farewell. He refrained from walking over. He merely inclined his head, a silent gesture that spoke volumes. Refrain. I refrained. I pivoted, exited I momentarily abandoned Ava, for the air had become too thick to draw in. The truth had siphoned every breath from the space around me, leaving me gasping in its wake. That night I found myself lying in bed beside a husband who had grown distant, his touch a memory, and a daughter whose words had become scarce, leaving an unsettling silence in the and I whispered to myself, "You were never truly in love with James." His gaze held a tenderness that made you feel seen, even in moments when your own reflection felt foreign to you. Perhaps that was the most challenging aspect, coming to terms with the fact that this whole tempest had begun with a woman yearning for acknowledgement. Composed a message for him, a single sentence. "I trust you will show her the kindness you never extended to me." I did not send it. What difference would it make? For I was aware that he had already done so. He had made his choice. I found myself never truly included in the equation. Time slipped away month by month. I revealed the truth to Daniel. Everything, each and every room, each caress, each deception. He remained silent. He simply remarked, "I always believed I was losing you gradually. You had departed long before I became aware." We parted ways silently with great difficulty. For eternity I meet with Ava each week. We are in the process of reconstruction, one fractured brick at a time. Times she poses questions that elude my grasp. Times she embraces me for no reason at all. And that's how I understand love cannot wash away betrayal. Yet at times it endures. I continue to visit the bookshop. Isolated, I often gaze at others and ponder what secrets lie beneath their smiles. Occasionally I find my thoughts drifting to James. Not with fury, not with yearning. Beneath a subtle awareness we were merely two solitary souls seeking to mend an emptiness with the remnants of our scars. And for a fleeting moment we held on to the belief that it had succeeded until the falsehood survived.